Good morning, students. So, in the previous classes, we were doing the fifth module in which we were speaking about iOS. So, here we have about iOS as well as Windows 7. So, in the starting part, we just saw the features of an Apple, that is, along with that Apple devices. Then, we also saw the different tools using which we can develop a iOS application. We had seen about the anatomy of an iOS app, wherein we saw the different files that will be there in your iOS project. Then we also saw about the navigators, storyboard. So now we'll move on with the next topic, that is other useful iOS things. Okay. So here, what we are saying here is an iOS application can be used to do some additional task. Okay. So the normal application, whatever operation it will be doing, that is in your cell phone. Along with that, some additional task can be done. That is what we are going to see in this particular topic. Okay, so that is the first thing you can say is offline storage. So under this, what we are saying here is your application, even though it is using web services to retrieve some information, there might be some situation wherein you want to save the information on your device. Okay, so depending on the size and type of data, you have a few different options. That is what we are going to see under offline storage. So what we are saying in offline storage, we might come across some situation wherein you want to save some information on your device. Okay, so for that, different options you have. So under that, the first one we are going to see is plist, or you can also call it as property list. Okay, so here the programming, you have some sample codes which are written in Objective C. Okay, not your normal C, but Objective C's. Okay, here the first part what we are going to see, or the first option what we are going to see, is property list, also called as plist. So you can see here plist. So property list, this is the simplest way to store your information on your device. So using this plist, it is possible to store the information. So what we said in offline storage, you might come across a situation where you want to store the information on your device. Okay, so how you can store using this property list? So this is the simplest way how you can store the information in your device. So we are speaking about iOS, wherein we are speaking about the Macintosh system. So in your Mac world, many applications are using this plist format to store your application's setting as well as information about the application, and some other serialized objects if you have, even those information are stored in this plist. Okay, so that is how your offline storage can be done. So the main thing what we should keep in mind is this plist, or the data that you're keeping in this list should be as simple and also small. Okay, how much simple it is possible, you have to try to make it that. Okay, one example is given to you, example code is given to you. So this particular example, so again, name of this program also, it is example. So you can see here, name is also example. Okay, so what does this do is, this is going to find the path of the plist stored in the supporting file directory. So your plist will be present in some directory. Okay, with the name of example, that is what we told here. The name here is example. Then it loads the plist into a dictionary object. So dictionary, we have, you might have learned in your data structures. So dictionary, when you say, again, it is a type of a data structure wherein you can store the data in the form of key and value pair. So that is what we had learned about dictionary. So we have key and the corresponding value for that. Okay, so here we are speaking about the dictionary object, and here we are also using the loop here. So I said this is your Objective C. So there is a slight changes in your for loop. So you can see here, this is like how you are using in Python. Okay, that is for followed by your looping here. What are you going to loop here? You're going to loop through each time, writing the contents of each item of the p list into the debug console. So what we are doing in this part, so they have given you as function, or they have given it separately. So this is one function wherein first of all you're going to get the path, that is build the path to the plist. So your plist will be present, stored in a separate file directory. So you're going to get that path. Okay, and after you get that path, it loads that plist into the dictionary object. That is nothing but, here you can see, you're loading the plist into the dictionary object. Here you're given ns dictionary. So remember, dictionary is nothing but, so you can see here whatever path you have got here. So here you're going to get the path where it is present, and that path will be loaded into the dictionary. Okay, and then after that, each item from that list you're going to get. So for that purpose, we have written here for loop here. So in for loop, what does it happen? Each of the item that is there in your plist, that will be accessed. Okay, so this is the first function, that is you're getting the value from the plist. Here you can see name of the function is get value from plist. So what we are going to do, first of all you have to get the path. Your plist or your property list will be stored in some location, in some directory. So that path we are going to get. Once you get the path, then load the plist into the dictionary. So again, the data structure here we are going to use is a dictionary, which is containing key as well as value pair. Okay, it then loads, that is you're loading the plist into the dictionary object. So once you have loaded, next you're looping through all the item in your plist, and you are displaying that, or you can say you're writing each of the content. So you can see here ns log. So this is your objective c. Okay, so how we are displaying here, each of the item what is there in your plist, that corresponding value will be displayed here. So you're writing it percentage and followed by this at symbol. This is your objective c code what is written. Okay, so this is the first part wherein you're getting the value from the plist. Okay, now here what you did, each of the item you are accessing in your list. Now instead of that, I want only one item out of that plist. Okay, so if you want just a single item of the plist, then how you can do, that code is written over here. That is the second part that is given. So the name here we have written output single plist value. In the first example, we are looping through the list and we are displaying, or you can say writing each of the item from the plist. Now we don't want that, we just want one single item. So how we are going to do, that is only these two lines. Above everything is same, whatever you have written here. That is, first part is you're going to get the path, right? Your plist will be stored in some directory, that path you're getting. Once you get that path, next you have to load it into dictionary. That is the next statement. Now these two lines, what are we doing here? So what are we doing? We want to get single item of the plist. Okay, so in that case, what we are doing, we are doing it in this function that is called as output single plist value. Okay, this is it is taking the name. So you can see here that takes in the name of the item which you want to output here. So you can see what is the name here. That is nothing but your item name. So you then use this object for key. You can see here object for key method. So what does this do is, it is going to get the value of the specific item what you have told. So here item name, suppose in your list you have name, usn, then address. Suppose you are having like this. Now out of that you want only the usn, then you can pass here item name will be usn, that you are passing to this from method object for key. That time what happens, only that particular item, that is name followed by, that is usn followed by what is the usn number, only that much will be displayed. So this particular function is to get just a single value from your plist. Okay, and the third function what they've given is So now you want to write to the plist file. You want to write some data into the plist file. Then in that case, here another function that is written, that is write to plist. Okay. So again, just see here the starting this line. This is the same thing. So what is this? NS start path. So what is this doing is you're going to get the path where your plist is stored. Okay. Then next part is nothing but you're loading that path into a dictionary object. This is the second line. Only the additional one is these two lines. So what are we telling in this code is you want to write something into your plist file. Okay. So that time what you're going to do, again you need to load the plist into dictionary. Okay. But this time how we are going to do here is this will be mutable dictionary. Mutable means what? It allows for the changes. Okay, it will allow you to make the changes. So that can be done by using this method called as set value. Okay, so here plist data. So what you're doing, set value. So what is the meaning of set value? This particular method will allow you to change the value. Okay, so here in this case, it's allowing you to change the value of key and then write the plist database to a file, that is example. Okay. So what is this doing? This particular code is allowing you to write some data into your plist file. That is, you're writing in the sense it is like you can modify the data, you can change the data, and after that that particular data will be written into write to file path automatically. Yes. So what does this do is this is going to write into the plist database with the file name. What is the file name you have given? You have given as example. So in that particular location, the data what you want to write or the value what you want to change. So here set value, whatever you give here, that is a new updated value what you give, that will be written. Okay, so this is about your plist. So what is this plist? Plist is nothing but it is called as property list. So this is used for offline storage. Okay, that is, you want to store some data in your device, then you can go for this plist. So what are the steps? First of all, you have to get the path where your plist is stored, and once you get the path, then you have to load that path into our dictionary object. So a dictionary, when you say, that's nothing but your data structure containing key as well as value pair. Okay, so then the different functions are given to you. First one is to display all the items, values of all the items in your playlist, whereas the next example is telling you any one item you want to display. Then you can go for this object for key, followed by you should tell which item. You have name USN. I want only the USN to be printed. My item will be here. Item name will be USN. Followed by that, here NS log. What are you printing? You are printing the item name. Here item name will be USN. Followed by that, what is the value of that particular item? That will be displayed. Okay. Suppose I have given USN 4SH some 19 MCA 23 if I give. What is that value? Means name is USN and value will be that USN number. Okay. And finally, the last part is you're writing to the plist. Again, when you write, first of all, you have to get the path, and that path should be loaded into dictionary. But here in this case, it is this particular statement, that is set value. So what does this do? This is allowing the user to modify the data. You can give some new value. Okay. So that is about your plist. Next we come to core data. So if the data that we require, that is, if it is of what you can say, it is very complex, or it is of greatest importance or something like that, if you say, then you can go for the concept of core data. Any data which is very complex, or which is of utmost important. Okay. Or you can also say the data that you need to persist on the device in non-trivial. That is a textbook term. So instead of that, we can say like this: any data which is complex, or which is of utmost important or very important. So in that particular case, instead of going for plist, you can go for this core data. Okay. So core data is described by Apple as schema driven object graph management and persistent framework. So that if you remember, you write, otherwise you can just skip off. So this core data is an API that abstracts the actual data store of the object. So one, this is also for your offline storage. Here, this is an API. The purpose of it is to abstract the data store of the object. So can be configured to store this object as a SQLite database, a playlist, custom data, or a binary file. So in core data, how you can store the data that is given here. Core data has a steep learning curve but is well worth learning more about if your app will have great deal of data held within it. So this will be useful only if you have a data which is of utmost important or very complex. In that case, you can use this. So that is about your offline storage, in which you're speaking about plist as well as core data. Core data, just a small topic wherein you're saying whenever you have any complex or of utmost important, then you can go for this core data. Okay, so core data is nothing but an API which is going to abstract the actual data store of the object. Okay, so and this core data can be configured to store this object as a SQLite or a plist or a custom data or a binary file. Okay, so that is about your core data. Next we come to GPS. So here in GPS they have given you some screenshots. Okay, so one of the great benefits of your mobile device is this GPS functionality. So this is how this has been very useful in many of the situations. So once you're able to get over the hurdle of learning the basic functions within an iOS platform, then you can start working with your GPS, which is of very helpful in your device. Okay, so GPS functions are located in core location framework. That is, we already spoke about the SDK, what you are going to use and all. So here, so I've just taken the screenshot of a textbook because all these things need to be done in the Macintosh system. So here, GPS functions are located in core location framework, which is not added to a project by default, but you can do it. So how we will do it? The screenshot is given here. Okay. So to do this, you will have to click this build faces tab on the project setting. So you will have a tab called as build faces. You have to click on that. So this is the screenshot that is given to you. Then the next part. So once you have clicked on that build faces tab, okay, then it will expand the link of binary libraries section, and there you have a plus button. So here it is not shown in the system. You'll be getting here a plus button is there. You are prompted to a list framework. So here you can see here the different frameworks are there. Okay, in there you can select here, this is called your core location dot framework. So this particular thing you have to select. Okay, so first you have to go to build phases, then here you have to click on this plus mark and you have to go to core location framework. Okay, so that is in terms of again we have code, a small set of code that is given to us with respect to GPS. Okay, with reference to the core location framework, which you already done here. So go to build phases and then you're going to core location framework. You have to click on that. So after doing this, now we are ready to move on with the GPS functionality. So for this GPS functionality to be present, go to build phases and then you select the framework. What is the framework you have to select? Core location framework. Once we are done with this, now we can move ahead with the coding part for GPS functionality. Okay. So for this, we have a header file called as viewcontroller.h. Okay. Then the we can see here location manager class. This is used to send out updates anytime the location is changed. So GPS, we know when we go from one place to other, the location will be tracked, right? So that location, so you have the class here, CL location manager. So what does this class do is, this class will send out the updates every time whenever your location is changed, it will update. Okay, so these updates are sent using the delegate pattern. So all this your object oriented concept, which simply means that your view controller needs to implement this delegate protocol. So first of all, we are having that delegate protocol. Once after that is done, that is delegate part is done, now we can initialize a location manager. So we have the initialization of the location manager need to be done, which can be done with the header file view controller dot h. Okay, so when you initialize this class, we have control over how frequently we want to receive the updates, like suppose like every 5 seconds or something like that, or every 10 seconds, or whenever the latitude longitude has been changed. So how oftenly you want the updates to be done, updates to be received about the location, that we can set here. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. We are initializing the location manager and delegate your setting it to self. Then after that, get GPS location in that accuracy 100 meters. Okay, so for every 100 meters, the location should be updated to you. Okay, location manager startup updating location. So then what happens, so this particular part of the code is for initializing a location manager. So what does the location manager do? It is going to give us or update us the location every time when it is changed. Okay, so here we can set how often you want the update to be received. So here we have set it to 100 meters. Okay, after that, the next part, or the last part here for the GPS functionality, the last step in which we need to perform, that is we are implementing the method, that is whenever the location has changed. Okay, whenever the location has been changed. So here the two parts what we are doing here is, you are latitude information into degree, minutes, and seconds, and the next one turn the raw longitude into degree, minutes, and seconds. So what is the next part we are going to do? In this method, we are going to convert the GPS data that is sent from the iOS into common format of degree, minutes, and seconds, and then longitude and latitude. So that is what this part is going to do here. So you can see here new location coordinate latitude. So the absolute value you are going to take of latitude, okay, minus degree. Along with that, minutes as well as seconds also you are going to consider. So what is this part doing? It is going to get you the latitude of the location where you are. Okay. Similarly, the next part, instead of latitude, that is just longitude. Rest everything is same. Here it is latitude degree is equal to new location dot coordinate dot latitude. You're going to retrieve the latitude of that particular location. Okay, so what are you going to do here? So this particular method is going to convert your raw GPS data, that is in terms of latitude and longitude, into common format of degrees, minutes, as well as seconds. So how often you have moved from one position to other. Okay, so that is how we are retrieving the latitude as well as longitude of particular location. So this is just a screenshot that is shown to you, that is other useful OS, that is nothing but if you're considering the project name would like to use your current location, then yes or no. This is your iOS prompt for the use of current location. So that is about your GPS. So that is about your GPS. So under offline, Um, that is under useful IO things. You have to tell about offline storage, that is plist and core data. Next one you should tell about GPS, wherein you are trying to implement the or every change of the location, that is every 100 meters the updated latitude as well as longitude need to be displayed to us. Okay, so next we'll come to the next part, that is about Windows Phone. Okay, so Windows. So, in the textbook, it is given as the next chapter. They have given as getting started with Windows Phone 7. Okay. So, here we are going to see basics of developing Windows Phone 7, how to acquire the tooling and basic design pattern, and also how to prepare to distribute our application in the marketplace. All these things we are going to see in this particular chapter. So this is the same module, fifth module only, but in the textbook it is given as a separate chapter. Okay, so Windows 7, this just a basic introduction part, not for the syllabus, not from the exam point of view, just a basic. Okay, so your syllabus content is from here, that is getting the tools you need. Just the introduction part here. So Windows 7 is not the next iteration of the Windows platform, but it is just a successor, you can say like that. So it has been built specifically for Qualcomm's Snapdragon Dragon processor family, and since being launched in November 2010, it had two major revision. So just introduction part, not for the exam point of view. Okay, the first was functionality was copy and paste, and next came the update to the included mobile browser as well as multitasking, and third party developed apps were included later. So that's just a small part, not for the exam point of view, not there in your syllabus. So from your from the syllabus point of view, this is your first topic. Okay, so getting the tools you need. So previously we spoke about iOS. So there also we spoke about the hardware, or I can say the tools what you require to develop an application in iOS. So here we are speaking about Windows Phone 7. Okay. So here, how to get the tools for development with respect to Windows Phone 7. So to develop software for Windows Phone 7, you need a machine running Windows. So when you spoke about iOS, we said that we require machine that is having, that is we require a Macintosh machine. So here we require a machine that is running Windows. It can be either Vista or Windows 7. So that is even Windows 10 we can go in. So, and along with that, you require Visual Studio. We can go for Visual Studio, the latest version, and the phone SDK as well as Windows Phone 7 device to test the device. Okay. Next comes the hardware part. So when you say the hardware, we have HTC, we have Nokia and Samsung that are manufacturing Windows 7 device. So with the device resolution of 800 into 480 pixel, and most are outfitted with both front as well as rear facing cameras with the screen of 4.3 to 4.7 inches, which is primarily found as with GSM carriers. So that is little bit the hardware part, just the things you have to remember. Okay, so here this is the data that is given at the point when your the prescribe book is published. Okay, so here they are speaking about HTC, Nokia and Samsung were manufacturing this Windows 7 devices. Okay, next comes the Visual Studio. So here they are saying you can go in for Visual 2010. Okay, so the code for Windows Phone is written in .NET framework, uh, that is a thing, or the custom version of Silverlight, okay, which is Microsoft's rich internet application framework. So here the code is written in .NET framework or in Silverlight. You can go for either. User interfaces are created with the extensible application markup language, that is your XAML. And Windows Phone SDK works with Visual Studio Express, and you will install it if you don't have it. Very obviously, we have to do it. That is, you can go for Visual Studio 2010 version on your system, and the SDK also installs a specialized version of Expression Blend setup. We are going to see about that here. Expression Blend setup is a tool that is developed by Microsoft for working with your extensible application markup language. So it provides similar functionality to Visual Studio also. So what and all you require? You require Visual Studio, in which you're writing the code either in .NET Framework, or you can go for the custom version of Silverlight. User interfaces are created with XAML, that is the Extensible Application Markup Language. Okay. Next comes about the installation part. So under installation part, obviously it is available online. So Microsoft's app hub, that is, you can go in for create.msdn.com. You can go to that particular site, and you can download Windows Phone SDK from there. Okay. So Windows Phone SDK installer, it includes Visual Studio 2010 Express for Windows Phone. It also includes the emulator where you can check how your code is going to appear in the device. Then it also includes Phone SDK assemblies, and Silverlight is there. Then extensions are there for Game Studio. Then Expression Blend for Windows Phone, that is included. Then Data Services client for Windows Phone is there. Then Microsoft Advertising SDK is also present. So all this data, all this are there when you install from create.msdn.com. Go to that particular site and you download Windows Phone SDK. So all this comes along. So to install this Windows Phone SDK, you require either Windows 7 or Vista in your system, and free space of about 4 GB, and you need to have a RAM of 3 GB. Then graphics card that is capable of around which is having DirectX 10 or DDM of 1.1 driver. All these things need to be there when you're installing Windows Phone SDK. Other than that, getting to know about Visual Studio. So Visual Studio, we all have worked in Visual Studio at one point or the other. So it will be appearing something like this. Okay. So this is just a screenshot of your Visual Studio. So is an IDE from Microsoft for the .NET framework. So Visual Studio Express for Windows Phone is, you can say it as a trimmed down version of Microsoft's full retail product. It provides developer with everything they need to develop Windows 7 app. This interface might be seem might look a bit backward. It has a relatively simple learning curve, and if even it's like what you see is what you get. It is based on that feature, and also here you have the text based editor also. So what you see, what you get, that feature is followed here. Okay. And the next part is about expression blend. So the next point was getting to know expression blend. So expression blend, you can see here, this is a thing, is a user interface design tool, again developed by Microsoft, with the simple emphasis on what you see is what you get design for extensible application markup language based project. Okay. So the diagram is given to you, which shows the blend user interface with the standard tool which is displayed on the Windows 7 pivot application. So these are the tools that is available to us Using this, you can perform the expression blending. And the next one is about next topic is Windows Phone 7 project. So a Windows 7 project is similar to the Silverlight, which is technically you can say it as a subset of Windows Presentation Foundation. So in this section, we are going to see the details about Windows Phone 7 project structure and some of the resources which you can add to the controls in the SDK. So all this we are going to see in this particular topic. Okay. So to begin with, first of all, you have Silverlight versus Windows Phone 7. So Silverlight, you can say it as it contains subset of API from the .NET framework, all optimized to run in a browser host so that it can be run on cross platform. So if you're saying Windows Phone 7 SDK, it is a subset of this, that is your Silverlight. When porting the third party Silverlight libraries, you have to make sure that they build against that is 7 version of Silverlight, because some of the API in that case some of the APIs it won't be possible to transfer. So Windows 7 phone contains some amount of controls for your application, but always it won't be there. Only few controls will be included. So multiple control toolkits have to be released. So again, you will get all those in the site, that is silverlight.codeflix.com. In that particular site, you can get some additional control toolkits, or you can also go for codingforfun.codeflix.com. If you are independent developer, you can go to this site and you can download some control tools that is released by Codeflix. So there are many companies that produce control packages for your uh, Windows Presentation Foundation as well as Silverlight uh, for creating this application in Windows Phone 7. It is available to us. Okay, so one of the companies is Telerik, and one more company is Component One, and you also have one more company that is Infragistics. So these are the companies which provide some control packages which can be used for Windows Presentation Foundation, also for Silverlight. All these have pre-built and skinnable control packages for which can be used in your Windows 7 phone, and it also comes with some price, roughly around $100 to $1,500. Okay, so this is about your Windows Phone 7 project. Next, you have anatomy of Windows Phone 7. So this we'll see in the next session. I think we are getting, yeah, we are time. So next topic.